Public affairs programming on Look TV is underwritten by the generous support of Pinnell's Restaurant, classic Italian American food since 1922, and Stored Tech, technology solutions for computers, networks, and phone. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
1922, Babe Ruth debuts with the Yankees. WGY signs on air. Exterminator wins the Saratoga Cup, and Pinnell's Restaurant opens its doors for the very first time. For 5 generations, Pinnell's has been preparing delicious Italian food, served in a comfortable, home-like setting where everyone is welcomed. 90 years of authentic Italian recipes, 90 years of the freshest ingredients, and 90 years of the finest classic Italian dishes, all made daily by hand. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga dining tradition since 1922.
Most cybersecurity firms deal only with prevention, the systems that block hackers and viruses. Stored Tech knows the root cause is actually good people doing bad things. So we offer a security training program which includes certifying all participants to show they understand the basics.
Technology solutions for computers, networks, and phones. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
The Saratoga City Council meeting, an inside look at the decisions that affect you and our community.
Good evening. Welcome to City Council meeting Tuesday, May 4th. It's 7:11. We have one public hearing this evening, and that is to amend Chapter 225, Section 225-81, parking prohibited on Crescent Street, and I'll turn it over to Commissioner Dalton.
Thank you. This is a public hearing to amend Chapter 225 of the City Code to add no parking signs on Crescent Avenue from South Broadway to Joshua Road. This is right by the dog park. This was in response to some of the neighbors' concerns about the safety of that street and the dog park and the frequency of people parking on the side of the road. We can open the public hearing.
Great. Is anybody in the audience here to speak on the amending Chapter 225, Section 225-81, parking prohibited on Crescent Street? Please raise your hand. Sam Brewer, are you looking to speak on this public hearing? Okay.
No, Mayor, I'm not. I'll speak at public comment during the
Okay, thank you, Sam. Okay, Darlene McGraw, do you want to speak? Can you unmute?
Yes, I do.
Darlene, I can't hear you. Do you want to speak on the public hearing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. I would like to.
Do you have a video? I can't see.
I don't have video right now. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, you're upside down. Can you flip it over, your camera?
I don't know how to do that yet. Sorry.
Okay. Why don't you turn your camera off? Can you turn it off then? There you go. And go ahead, Darlene. Just state your name and your city, please.
Yes, Darlene McGraw. I live here in Saratoga Springs. I would like to agree that no parking be placed between South Broadway and Joshua, because when I ride my trike, it's very hard to see as it is sometimes if there's cars going by. And I believe it would be safer for everybody if there was no parking there.
Great. Thank you, Darlene. Any other comments about amending Chapter 225? Please raise your hand. Okay, Commissioner Dalton, are we closing this evening?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then we will close that public hearing and we'll move on to roll call, please.
Commissioner Frank?
Present.
Commissioner Madigan? Commissioner Scirocco?
Here.
Commissioner Dalton?
Present.
Mayor Kelly?
Here.
Supervisor Veach?
Here.
Supervisor Gaston?
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on the agenda is our public comment period. I ask that you keep your comments brief, up to 2 minutes. Yielding time to someone else is not allowed. Public comment period will be up to 15 minutes. Please be respectful and address the council as a whole. As a reminder, public comment is not a dialogue or discussion with the council members. However, at the end of public comment period, any member may respond. Please now raise your hand with the Zoom app that you'll find in the reactions or participants toolbar. When we call on you, please unmute, turn your video on, and state your name and city. We'll start with Sam Brewer. Sam,
Mayor,
can you?
yep, I can hear you. I can hear you just fine, Mayor. It looks like the host has disabled my video. If you could enable that, that'd be great.
Let me see.
Okay, there we go.
There you go.
Okay, Mayor, Council, thank you for taking my call this evening. My name's Sam Brewer. I live on Lake Avenue in Saratoga Springs. Before the presidential election, I came before the council and noted that in order for the city to get the relief that it needed from the financial difficulties associated with COVID, it'd be necessary to change the presidential administration. Thankfully, this has occurred, and there has been some bailout money that has been allocated to municipal and state governments due to the ongoing financial distress. I did an analysis of the monies that were allocated to New York State municipalities through the states, and I found that Saratoga Springs is slated to receive $7.7 million, which is the lowest of all the municipalities that have been allocated funds. And on a per capita basis, it's less than half of what Glens Falls is getting, even though the impact to our economy has been much greater. The $7.7 million figure is suspect to me. I mean, anytime you see sequences of numbers like that, you have to wonder, who is dabbling in politics at the state level to enable that. I don't think that it's a bad thing that we've received the least amount of money. You don't want to read too much into that. However, I think we need probably $15 to $20 million to cover the shortfalls for the past 18 months in the next year or so. So with your time remaining in office, I'd like to see you guys, call Senator Schumer and Senator Gillibrand's offices and find out, if there was the Brofman family and the Seagrams folks interfered with the city receiving the money that it was allocated. Like I said, the 7 and 7 number is kind of suspect. It's like the Seagrams 7 and 7 drink. And we have Keith Rainier in federal prison who's associated with the Brofman family, who's from the area. So I think that there are some games that are going on, and you should call the appropriate federal authorities to ensure that Saratoga Springs wasn't given the short end of the stick.
Thank you. That's your time. Thank you. Okay. All right. Next up is Laura Rappaport.
Hi.
Can you put your video on, please?
I'm getting there. There I go. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having us. I'm Laura Rappaport, and with Diana Goodwin, I'm this year's co-chair of Sustainable Saratoga. Here to talk about the UDO. Sustainable Saratoga is asking for a postponement of the merit vote on the UDO, which is scheduled for tonight. This would allow the city planners time to provide the council and the public two things. First, a written list of how the draft UDO substantially differs from the existing zoning ordinance, and second, written responses to public comments on draft 2. The UDO is a long, detailed, dense document that's difficult for most people to read, let alone understand. Without clear, organized information about all of its new policies and provisions, that is, about what would change from current zoning standards, a public review process can't be truly meaningful. COVID-19 has certainly complicated things, and most community members have really been too consumed by the pandemic to participate in the process the way they normally would and the way you guys would normally see them. With that in mind, we urge you all to consider the perspective of the citizens. And while you have offered workshops and question and answer opportunities, many folks just haven't had the bandwidth to get involved. You know what an active, involved community we have here, especially around land use issues and other things. As their elected officials, we really hope you'll give folks a real chance to understand this important planning document. And it also makes good sense to have a well-reviewed, solid plan in place before the advisory process and the required public hearings begin. Otherwise, if substantive changes are made after the advisories, you run the risk of having to begin the process all over again. For our part, that's fine. Is that my 2 minutes?
Yep.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Stefan Stillwell.
Hi. Okay. I am here today. So I'm a disabled individual. I reside in Ballston Spa on Geyser Road. And a few weeks back, I was in downtown Saratoga with my girlfriend. And the issue that I'd like to bring up is the accessibility of Saratoga. So the specific area, but I'm sure it's even broader than that, was on the intersection of Caroline and Maple. And the intersection there does not have the proper accessibility for wheelchairs to be able to cross in that intersection. So just crossing on the, I believe it is the western side of Maple Ave across Caroline, there are no wheelchair cutouts, the accessibility cutouts there, but there's a crosswalk marked there. And then conversely, you have to cross 3 times to be able to successfully continue on the same path that you were on if you're in a wheelchair. And then on the second crossing, the actual ramp is not in the crosswalk. It's about 10 feet down further. So I just ask for an assessment of the accessibility and usability of crosswalks for individuals in wheelchairs in Saratoga, because it would seem that it's lacking, or at least could be improved upon.
Thank you. Darlene McGraw. You there, Darlene?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm here. I wanted to speak on behalf of what many individuals of the community have stated. It's paving time this time of year. It's time to get things fixed up. One concern people have spoken to me about is why are some city vehicles being outside of the municipality and in other municipalities, such as I saw one in Malta today, Schuylerville, etc. Do we have an electric police vehicle? If so, where is it? And also, I tried to reach out to the city's attorney's office with no result, but if the curbs are damaged from the city plows in the winter, why do we need to replace them as residents if they are beyond the sidewalk and beyond the side of the grass, as I was previously told? And I would like to second what Stefan said. We need to make sure that our city has ADA accessible sidewalks, because any of us can be in a situation where we need an accessible sidewalk, not to mention the lawsuits that can go along with not following the American with Disabilities Act. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Thank you. John Capone.
Yes, good evening. See, I'm no longer on Mars. I'm now on the Spring Run Trail this week.
Can you state your name and municipality, please?
Yeah, John Capone, Saratoga Springs. So we're really very quick tonight. Would like to second what Ms. Rappaport said regarding the UDO. It is a very complex document, and we only recently have become aware of it and have been pouring through it. We do believe that there are lots of little details that are impacting both our neighborhood in the Maple Dell area and citywide that do require a broader, better explanation of, as Ms. Rappaport said, what is different, and addressing the questions that have been out there in some meaningful fashion. There's really not been closed loop. So we're supportive of making this update, just want to do it, make sure that it is done with the right quality and the right public input and closed loop process. So like Ms. Rappaport requesting a delay of that merit review to give it further time for quality assessment by the public and the planning department.
Thank you. Matt Jones.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm not sure if I can get the video going, but can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Mayor, members of the council, I'm Matt Jones. I live at Victoria Lane. And I'm here in support of the resolution which would send the matter, the UDO, to the city and county planning boards and do so promptly. I have attended the first meeting of the UDO, which took place in the city council chambers in August of 2015. None of us envisioned at that time that it would be nearly 6 years until the document would come to vote. But I'm pleased with the efforts of Camiros and the planning staff. They worked hard. Camiros having produced the January 2020, the September 2020, and the April 21st versions, and making, in some cases, modest changes between versions. But if you followed it along, it is a lengthy document, but if you followed along with the three versions, I think you have a pretty good feel for what's going on in the UDO. So I would find it difficult to imagine anybody who has been following the process would have reservations at this point. I think this is the council's opportunity to secure those advisory opinions and to move forward, at which point the document will return to the council with recommendations, which it may choose to accept or not, to amend or not. It'll hold public hearings, it'll conduct a secret process, and sometime, hopefully in July or August, be ready for a vote. So probably 6 years is about the limit, I think, of the public's patience for this. And I would urge you, Your Honor, and members of the council, to send it on to the planning boards and keep the process moving. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to raise their hand if they want to speak? Do you see anybody, Lisa? Okay, if you want to speak and you can't raise your hand, turn your video on so we could see you. Okay, then at this time we will be closing the public comment period and we'll be moving on to our comments from the council. Does anybody have any comments? I do have one comment about our sidewalks, and I know the actual sidewalk that Stefan is talking about. And Vince, if you want to jump in here and just maybe update on the ADA process that we've been going through.
Yes, Mayor. We are currently, and have been since before COVID, been undergoing an inventory of all of our sidewalks throughout the city, including crosswalks as well. Tina Carton right now is facilitating that effort. And as we go and then identify all of the areas throughout the city that require improvements to achieve ADA compliance, we then will develop a plan on how to start implementing those improvements. But your comments are important, and we will work toward addressing those.
Right, and I do actually know, we know that corner is a bad one, and we've been told that before, and we will hopefully get to that in the very near future. Any other comments from the council at this time?
Yeah, Mayor, I have one comment. I just want to let the council know that when we do our paving, we're required by our CHIPS money to make these intersections ADA compliant. So that's what a lot of places where we pave, we'll have to go back in there and redo the handicap ramps, that sort of thing. So, but I wanted to say to Mr. I think his name is Stillwell, if he wants to call BPW and just let us know so we can discuss, the issue with the compliance, wherever that was. But I wasn't able to hear him that clearly. I suggest you call DPW and we can work that situation out. Again, the phone number is 584-3550, extension 2561, and talk to Leah, and we'll set something up so we can assess the issue.
Great, thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments? Mr. John, okay, there we go, perfect, okay. Okay, then we will move on to our presentation. I'll turn it over to Commissioner Dalton for a Fire and EMS Station 3 presentation.
Thank you. We are going to have a presentation from CHA with an update on our Fire and EMS Station 3. So I believe they are on the call right now. And let's take it away.
Thank you. Mayor Kelly and Commissioners, I'm Tony Stellato from CHA. I want to thank you first for the opportunity to present tonight, and more importantly, the opportunity to work on the Fire Station 3 project. Our purpose tonight is going to be to introduce the council to the schematic design that we've had underway now for a while, and we have a site plan and some building drawings to show you. We would like to initiate the seeker process. If you recall, the seeker process for the easement from NYRA for this site was segmented during the initial seeker review due to the details of the building and site not being known at that time. So we want to initiate the remainder of the seeker process here tonight. And with that, we would like to discuss engagement of the land use boards, the planning board and the DRC as part of that review. Now, we have a presentation, we have some materials. I can share my screen if that's what you have envisioned, so I'll do that now. Okay, I need, I'm getting a message that the host disabled the...
I gave it to Rich. So is Rich not there with you? We gave it to Rich, I guess.
Okay, Rich is here. Rich, can you please share your screen?
Yes, I will. Hang on.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Can you see that okay?
Not yet.
Okay. How's that?
It's looks like it's trying to do something. There we go.
It is.
Okay.
Okay, so I'd like to start with the site plan, and we'll touch on this briefly, and we'll perhaps come back to it if you'd like after you've seen the building. It might make more sense, but just to start here, you can see it's a 15,500 square foot building. It's roughly centered on the lease parcel, which is 2.4 acres plus or minus at the east end of the Oklahoma Track property. Just to orient you to the sheet here, at the top of the page is East and Henning Road. Across the street, just above the border, is the BOCES Center, and Fifth Avenue and north is to the left side of the page. The building is one story. It's comprised of an apparatus bay, or several apparatus bays on the south end away from the residential area, and an admin and support function to the north. The bulk of the parking is in the rear of the building. There is some parking out front, and we have stormwater management areas along the south property line. So I would like now to move on to the building presentation and introduce Alan Kunaholm, who is our Director of Design. I believe that the bulk of the presentation should focus on the building. Alan?
Right. Mayor, members of the council, nice to meet you. Thank you for having us tonight. As Tony mentioned, single story footprint. You're looking at the same orientation that we had on the site plan. You can see the apparatus bays to the right. And then there's a component in the front that faces Henning Road, which is called the Emergency Operations Center, which is a very prominent portion of the program with its own entry to the outside. And then to the back of the plan is the bunk rooms, if you will, and the core for all the firefighters and the fire apparatus. Since we met previously, we've put the apparatus bays, we flipped it over and put it on the south side. And I think that offers a little mitigation from any kind of sound that actually uses part of the building to create a little bit of a buffer. Tony, could you go to the next one, please? So these are our elevations. I know as you're looking at these, they look black. It's a little bit of a computer glitch, but the siding is actually a bottle green, if you will, a very dark green with white trim. And maybe what we can do, Tony, why don't we go to the sketch and then I can come back to the elevations because I think the sketch makes a little bit more sense. This is the view that you'll see from Henning as you look in, and you can see the apparatus bays to the left. It says Saratoga Springs Station 3 and signage above the entry doors. Since we last made some presentations, I know Samantha had some comments and Cammie and the chief. We've embellished the front entry to the EOC with double doors and side lights. We've also added some clear story daylighting into the storage mezzanine and also the apparatus bays. The idea of the architecture here is really a simple classic, stripped down classic, if you will. It has a base, a middle, and a top. And in that sense, it's a little bit classical. As I was looking at some of the surrounding architecture and colors, I saw the club building out at the track, and I think that has a very attractive dark green on the outside. It also has a copper roof. I don't think we'll be doing a copper roof here, but I think it sort of recalls that greenness of the track in the club. And then on the right-hand side of the image, you're seeing the what's called the day room that pops out, and there's a little articulation in the gable end there. But really trying to use colors and trying to use the administration and the apparatus bays, if you will, to try and, oppose those, break up the mass a little bit with the color and some of the a focus on the detailing. We're at the end of schematic design, so there's still some time here to be tweaking, colors and actual materials. But I think this represents a pretty good first pass on schematic design. So I'm totally open to questions. Tony, we could go back to the elevations real quick, and let me just, and then I can speak to those now that you've seen those. So that top elevation is the east elevation that faces Henning. And really the idea of that with a pitched roof on one side is to really accentuate the porch over the entry to the EOC. So that will be sort of a main feature. And then there's another porch, sort of a recessed area where there's a lot of activity coming into the station, and then the apparatus space to the left. If you drop down, the south elevation is really just the apparatus phase, but you can see that we've added clear story lighting, adding some daylighting that comes into the apparatus bays. On the right, you can see the day room popping out, and that feature in the gable end. There'll be two doors that come out there. And then the bottom elevation is really the back side of the building from Henning, and you can see some of the windows into the bunk rooms, and also some more clear story lighting up above the mezzanine. So really, that's the idea of the design and where we're at right now.
Yeah, I think it looks absolutely terrific. Really fits within the character of the neighborhood, and I just think you guys did a phenomenal job, and not necessarily, I think, what people think of when they think of a fire station, and I just am really impressed with how it looks and how far we've come.
Any other questions or comments from the council?
What's the setback from the road? How many feet is the footprint going to be, you know?
It's
I think it's about 100 feet from the property line to the building.
About 150, maybe about 150 to the road itself.
Yeah.
It looks nice, and I think we've got some Eastern Plateau residents online who are probably excited to get this first look, whether they're watching on Zoom or by the web link on from our city website. But yeah, it looks nice from the picture. Absolutely.
Can you tell me the distance to the border of Fifth Ave?
I don't have, this is Rich LaRose. I don't have the survey in front of me, but I can follow up and get that information to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just, yeah, I'd like to know that.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have a map here, but it's not the scale, so.
That's okay. That's
Let
okay.
us get you the right number.
Yeah, it's not a heavy lift. I'm just curious more than anything else.
Sure, we can provide that information, not a problem.
I just think it's really exciting that we've gotten to this point. I know it's one of the reasons I ran for office back in 2019, and it's been such a long time coming, this project. Obviously, we would not be here if Mayor Kelly had not secured this land. But now to see this, come to fruition, especially with all the challenges the city's been facing with COVID, get this far, to see a real rendering of what it could look like. I mean, I just think it's really exciting, and we need to keep the progress going. So I thank CHA for all of their hard work and look forward to the next steps.
Yes, I thank them too. It looks fine. It looks very nice.
Mayor Kelly, if it's possible, I'd love to move my agenda item up, my first agenda item up. So perhaps we could do a discussion and vote now to move this forward to the planning board and DRC for an advisory opinion.
Give me one moment, please.
Thank you.
Okay, that's your first item. Go ahead.
Thank you. Discussion and vote referral to the planning board and DRC for an advisory opinion on the plans for the proposed fire EMS station 3. This is a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? So what does this exactly mean, Commissioner? What are we trying to get out of the planning board and DRC?
We're trying to see if they have any issues or any changes or what their opinion might be on the plan as it stands right now.
Okay.
Mayor Kelly, would you like me to just give a really quick overview of the seeker process the way we see it?
Well, now you open that can of worms. Sure, go ahead.
Okay, I'll be.
Can I ask that somebody unshare their screen, because I don't have a super large. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Tony.
I think it will answer the question that was just asked. So the city council will obviously be the lead agency in seeker, and we are working right now with the city attorney's office on the preparation of an environmental assessment form and supporting documentation, which when complete, we will provide to the city council for review. And that will be the framework for the seeker review. Supporting that will be advisory opinions from both the planning board and the DRC. So we would anticipate that once you make that referral to both boards, we are prepared right now to share information with those boards so that we can get on their agendas, meet with them, and go through the details that they will need to go to provide you with that report. And then, we'll come back to city council. You'll have reviewed those reports. You'll have seen the environmental assessment form. And if there's any additional documentation that is requested during the seeker review, that will be provided as well. And then you'll be able to make a determination of significance under seeker. And that needs to happen before two things proceed with this project. One is the appropriation of funding for construction. The other is the issuance of a permit to construct. And that permit, in this case, because this is state property that the city's leasing, will be issued by OGS, the Office of General Services. So we've been in contact with them. They're ready for us. They're really focused on code issues. They're going to really be sitting back until the seeker review is complete. So the timing of all this, we anticipate the seeker review, which it really is being initiated right now, will be completed sometime in early July. We would then proceed with final detailed building plans. We'd be complete with that around January of 2022. The city could receive bids in February of 2022, and then construction could start April of 2022.
Great, thank you, Tony. That did answer a lot of my questions. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The matter passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tony, and thank you to your team.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Yep.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yep. Okay, we're going to move on to our consent agenda. I move that the City Council approve the consent agenda as included with this agenda. This is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes. Thank you. Okay, on to the mayor's department. My first item is a discussion cannabis legislation, and I'll turn it over to Vince DeLeonardis to give us an update on this.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to briefly discuss with you cannabis legislation that was recently passed. I realize our last city council meeting was actually on 4/20, and if I had been more clever, I would have discussed this then. But on March 31st of this year, Governor Cuomo did sign into law Chapter 92 of the laws of 2021, known as the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act. The law legalized possession and use of cannabis upon its passage. Individuals over the age of 21 are now able to use marijuana and can possess up to 3 ounces or up to 24 grams in its concentrated form. The law also established 2 new state agencies to administer programs, promulgate rules, issue licenses, and investigate and enforce infractions. This is anticipated to be very similar to how the state regulates alcohol through the State Liquor Authority. The agencies include the New York State Cannabis Control Board and the Office of Cannabis Management. The law will also allow for retail dispensaries and on-site consumption establishments to operate in the state, but that is not expected to begin until late 2022 or early 2023. Cities, towns, and villages will have the opportunity to opt out of allowing dispensaries and or on-site consumption establishments. This would include the city of Saratoga Springs. In other words, all municipalities will permit dispensaries and on-site consumption establishments when the state permits it, unless they have specifically adopted a local law opting out of allowing either dispensaries, consumption establishments, or both. Such a local law must be adopted on or before December 31st, 2021, and it will be subject to permissive referendum. So I know we've got some time until that date approaches, but I wanted to give council and the public just a brief overview of what occurred at the state level and what will be required at the city level in terms of making a determination on opting out with regard to on-site consumption facilities or dispensaries. So if there are any questions on that, I'd be happy to address those.
So it's only if the council opts out that it would go for a referendum?
That's correct. So if the council adopts a local law opting out, all municipalities are presumed in. But if you opt out, that local law under the presumption requirements wouldn't go into effect until 45 days after the adoption to allow members of the community to initiate a petition, which in this instance requires 10% of the registered voters who last voted in the gubernatorial race. And if they get the signatures are obtained and filed with the city clerk, then the issue would be on the ballot.
Thank you.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Commissioner.
I don't know if it's premature to be asking you all this, but does anyone have any strong feelings about opting out?
I don't know enough about it right now to make a decision. I wouldn't think that that's where I'm at. So, and I don't think this is going to happen by the end of the year. Is that correct, Vince?
The decision has to happen by the end of the year. If council is going to opt out, that decision has to be made before December 31st. I should add that there will be a 4% tax imposed upon the cannabis 3% of that 4% will come to the city if we opt into this or choose not to opt out.
I mean, I can say I have no intention of opting out. I think it's absolutely something we need to do. We need the revenue, for one thing, and just was curious to see if anyone else had any opinion at the time.
Vince, will we have to develop any guidelines or any sort of regulations for the dispensaries? Is that something the city council would have to do?
So there's a couple of angles from that one, Commissioner. One of them is we're going to, and we're still awaiting some guidance from the state, but there will be state regulations that affect this. Just like the SLA regulates the sale of liquor. But we, as a city, are going to have to address issues with regard to the zoning of these dispensaries if we're going to allow for them and on-site consumption facilities. The UDO did anticipate this as we were in the process of drafting it, and we do define marijuana dispensaries in the UDO and indicate what zoning districts they will be allowed and some of these standards. But as this thing approaches implementation at the end of 2022 or beginning of 2023, we're going to want to take another close look at that and make sure, A, our regulations don't conflict with whatever state laws come out, and B, it's appropriate for our municipality.
And again, there'll always be the public comment period. There'll always be that available to the public to weigh in on this whole issue.
And you can clarify now, though, that people, as of March 31st, people could walk down the city street right now and smoke pot, and that is totally legal, correct?
Totally legal. Now, the city does have the opportunity, and we do, in fact, regulate city-owned property, parks, playgrounds, things of that sort where we prohibit smoking. This would include marijuana, but otherwise people are entitled to consume and use marijuana right now and possess it, as I said, up to 3 ounces or 24 grams in concentrated form.
Any other comments by the council? Okay, thank you, Vince.
Thanks, Vince.
On to my next item, discussion and vote approval for the mayor to sign an occupational medicine services agreement with Saratoga Hospital. The Saratoga Hospital will provide the city of Saratoga Springs occupational medicine services, including but not limited to alcohol and drug testing procedures to its current and prospective employees on a fee-for-service arrangement. Fees are only charged to DPS and DPW after services are requested by the city and completed by the hospital. These fees will come out of budget lines A31-4-3014542291 DPS and A333-5014542290 DPW. I move that the City Council authorize the mayor to sign occupational medicine services agreement with Saratoga Hospital. This is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes. My next item is discussion and vote approval for the mayor to sign memorandum of agreement, MOA, between the City of Saratoga Springs and Saratoga Springs PBA. I move that the City Council authorize the mayor to sign a memorandum of agreement between the City of Saratoga Springs and the PBA Police Benevolent Association. This is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And I'd like to have Vince DeLeonardis just give us a brief overview here.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Council will recall that we have discussed this during prior executive sessions, but this is a memorandum of agreement between the city and the PBA, and it incorporates a change from an 8-hour to a 12-hour shift. The MOA addresses various sections in the collective bargaining agreement and converts time into hours to allow for proportionate calculations for both the 8-hour and the 12-hour shifts, including such things as differentials or sick leave and personal leave, vacations, overtime, and callback. Officers working a 12-hour shift will be divided into 4 separate shifts that run from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. Officers in the 12-hour shift will now work 36 hours in one week and 48 hours in the following week. This results in an officer working a total of 84 hours over a 2-week period. But the additional 4 hours will not be paid out as overtime. Instead, we have agreed to redefine the work period to include 84 hours biweekly. This will also avoid the need to provide Kelly days. The 12-hour shifts are scheduled to go into effect on May 22nd. And the PBA took the MOA to a vote last week, and it was ratified by a majority of its members. And I know that Commissioner Madigan is going to address the cost outs, but it should be noted that the increased costs are expected to be minimized, if not entirely eliminated, by the anticipated savings to our overtime lines. So Commissioner, I know you were going to.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Vince. So as Vince said, the MOA runs from May 22nd, 2021 through December 31st, 2025. And the total projected cost increase over that period of time is $869,000. Both the base salary and shift differential projections by year, the increase for this year, 2021, the total projected increase in expense is $109,205, more than if the PBA were to remain under their current contract. In 2022, the increase in cost over their current contract will be $184,425. This increase is because now the contract will cover an entire year, and it does include there are 2% salary increases, two 2% salary increases. So for 2023, it's $188,000, and for 2024, it's about $192,000, and in 2025, $195,000. Again, the total 12-hour shift MOA through 2025 is $869,000. The projections don't include the overtime savings, as Vince was saying. And it is our belief, or the thinking, and if it holds true, overtime that we typically budget for every year, we will be able to decrease the budgeting of overtime, and that should be offset by this increase in this 12-hour shift differential. That's it. Those are the cost outs.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anything else, Vince?
Not unless there are any questions.
Thanks. Any questions or comments from the council?
I have one, actually. So it's the MOA specifically, but once the MOA runs out in 2025, this becomes part of their actual union agreement, or will this require additional negotiation, say, end of 2025?
The MOA becomes incorporated into the collective bargaining agreement, and it shows the changes that are being made. But for purposes of cleaning up the collective bargaining agreement, we will likely make a full incorporation into a new collective bargaining agreement and present that at some point in the future. But this becomes part of the contract.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, comment if everyone's done.
Yep, go ahead.
So I just wanted to say that this is something that Chief John Catone and I sat down to talk about when I was, again, first thinking about running for this position. And it's something that especially a lot of our younger officers and our patrol officers have wanted for a really long time. It's a real quality of life issue for them. And I just wanted to thank everybody who has worked so hard to get this together, including Commissioner Madigan's office and payroll for working so hard, Vince and Christy, the chiefs and the PBA for kind of working through this and getting it to this point, because this is going to be a real morale booster for our police department after a year that we all know has been really tough on them. So I just want to thank you all for all your hard work, and I hope we are able to vote yes on this and make it happen.
I had one more thing I wanted to say, Mayor, sorry, skipped over a little bit of notes, and I don't think, Vince, you touched on this, but the MOA currently affects a total of 49 patrol officers and sergeants. They are the only job classification within the PBA that's been identified as moving to the 12-hour shift. This number could increase or decrease based on hiring, retiring, or people leaving. So it could change in the future. The cost outs that I gave you are a generalized estimate, but pretty much on target. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes. My next item is discussion and vote resolution authorizing the sale of certain real property. I move that the City Council authorize the resolution for the sale of city-owned property situated on the southwest corner of Caroline and Henry Streets in the city of Saratoga Springs and bearing tax map ID numbers 165.60-1-35 and 165.60-1-36. This is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? And again, I'd like to ask Vince just to give us an overview. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. This is a parcel that has been owned by the city since on or about 1982. It's a small corner lot on the corner of Henry and Caroline Street, and is currently and has for some period been used simply as surface vehicle parking, I think sufficient to accommodate up to 19 vehicles. The resolution acknowledges that the parcel no longer serves a municipal purpose, particularly in light of the construction of the 600-plus space parking facility that the city center undertook last year, and authorizes the property to be put out to bid. We did have the parcel appraised. That appraisal came back establishing a fair market value of $500,000, and the minimum bid will be set at that amount. So if the resolution passes, it will authorize myself, together with appropriate city staff, which would be individuals from the accounts department, to put together those documents necessary to solicit the bids.
Great, thank you. Any other comments?
I just want to say that while I never want to reduce parking, this little lot has become kind of a haven for drug activity. I live in that neighborhood. I see things happen in that parking lot all the time, in the dark, at the corner, and it's an unsafe area to begin with. And so I think developing it is not only good for the city's financial health, but it's certainly good for public safety as well.
Anyone else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes. My next item is discussion and vote, determination of merit for review for the Unified Development Ordinance. I move that the City Council determine that the Unified Development Ordinance has merit for review that is referred to the City Planning Board, the County Planning Board, and the Design Review Commission for advisory opinions. This is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? And I'd like to turn it over to Vince again.
Thank you, Mayor. So we did receive correspondence from Sustainable Saratoga, which was followed by a number of template or duplicate emails from certain members of the community. This was discussed yesterday at pre-agenda, and I want to take just a couple of minutes to address some of the issues that were raised. The template emails created by Sustainable Saratoga suggest that the UDO is somehow not consistent with the comprehensive plan and indicate that the City Council should not approve it in its current form. To be clear, though, and to remove any possible confusion, the item up for discussion and vote tonight is not to approve the document. It is instead simply to find that it has sufficient merit for review and to refer it to the city and county planning boards and the DRC for advisory opinions. And a determination on the UDO's consistency with the comprehensive plan is exactly why we refer it to the land use boards. Most of the specific issues raised by Sustainable Saratoga are those relating to the rural residential or RR zoning district. They continue to take the position that we have failed to protect the rural areas by allowing new uses that are not rural in character. As an example, they cite domestic violence shelters and suggest that such use should be removed from the RR district and placed elsewhere in the city. Domestic violence shelters are not currently defined in our existing zoning ordinance, but we should be clear that it is not a new use. It is a newly defined use. Domestic violence shelters are licensed facilities that are residential in nature, and under our current zoning ordinance, they would be allowed as a residential use. The very purpose of a domestic violence shelter is to operate in such a way that you would have no idea that it is a domestic violence shelter. They already exist, are already allowed in the RR, and they serve an important purpose. I have the utmost respect for Sustainable Saratoga, but are we really going to tell victims of domestic violence that it's okay for them to live in our city so long as it's not in the RR district? Because that is exactly what Sustainable Saratoga is asking us to do. Likewise, Sustainable Saratoga takes issue with Children's Home and argues that they should also not be allowed in the RR district either. A children's home is also residential in nature and provides housing and care to children who otherwise have no home. Sustainable also does not want marinas being included in the RR district, but that use is already allowed and is not new. They don't want private social clubs, but our current ordinance allows for private civic clubs, and the definitions between the two are nearly identical. They take issue with animal care facilities. Now, our current ordinance allows for animal kennels in the RR. We have removed animal kennels from the UDO and incorporated the use into the definition of animal care facilities, and we continue to allow them in the RR district. We have also redefined what an inn is and have reduced the maximum number of rooms from 25 down to 8. Based on that reduction, an inn is allowable in the RR district in the UDO, but only on arterials, which is similar to the corridor overlay where they are allowed now. An inn is also defined as a use within a single-family dwelling and is required to maintain its original appearance as a single-family dwelling. A lodging house is also defined in the UDO as a single-family dwelling that can provide lodging in up to 5 guest rooms, and a rooming house in the RR district can allow up to 5 tenants plus the owner. Under the current ordinance, we already allow both neighborhood bed and breakfasts and neighborhood rooming houses, which allow up to 5 rooms for rent. These are not significant changes from what is already allowed in the RR district. And other than generically stating that the proposed uses are somehow not consistent with the comprehensive plan, they have failed to establish how. Now, there are, in fact, other uses which are entirely new, including community centers. These are facilities used for meeting, recreation, or social activities. They are nonprofit facilities open to the public and offer educational and community service activities. Educational facilities are also allowed in the RR district in the UDO, but only primary or secondary facilities and not vocational, colleges, or universities. This would be similar to, for example, Saratoga Independent School, which I believe generally enjoys community support. Campgrounds are also included in the UDO as an allowable use in the RR district. These require, however, a minimum of 6 acres of land, and like many of the other uses we just discussed, also requires a special use permit and site plan approval. The comprehensive plan indicates that the greenbelt where the RR district exists is intended for low density, outdoor recreation, agricultural, and other rural uses. The uses proposed in the UDO are not intended to run afoul of that vision. Our intent is and has always been to respect our city in the country and to maintain that respect with our zoning regulations. As staff, we have done our very best to produce a document which reflects this. We have done this with guidance from our consultant and with input from the community, including Sustainable Saratoga. And as the slides that Lisa has prepared reflects, there are a fair number of uses that have been removed from the RR district, both as it exists in our current zoning and as it has been submitted in the earlier drafts of the UDO. By referring the UDO to the land use boards, you are simply allowing for an opportunity to receive further guidance and input. Guidance and input that, together with that from the community, are all part of the process to make this ordinance the best that it can be. And that is the opportunity that is before you this evening. So if there are any questions, Mayor or Commissioners, I would be happy to address them.
Thank you, Vince. Any questions or comments from the council?
I expressed my concerns in an email yesterday to Vince and CC'd the council. I was very specific in what my concerns were, and I did not get a response until just now from Vince. Vince, I appreciate your response. I appreciate the hard work of your entire department, Mayor Kelly. I certainly want to see this UDO succeed. However, I take issue with a couple things. One, I think it was really unfair to just characterize Sustainable Saratoga as being anti-domestic violence shelters. I don't think that was necessary. In the email I sent to you, that was not something I included. The intensive uses I included were campground, community center, country club, schools, marinas, and private and social clubs. Especially the language going on that goes along with marinas, very extensive. It includes maintenance buildings, fueling stations, retail locations. It was quite elaborate. Schools are wonderful. Saratoga Independent School is wonderful, but it's not necessarily something that I would want to see in the Greenbelt. Country clubs can be quite large, not something I would like to see in the Greenbelt. So I'm not really comfortable voting yes to give this merit for review to the land use boards unless there was a little extra time given to those specific intensive use things that are written into the UDO right now in the Greenbelt area. So I wish we'd been able to have this conversation yesterday or earlier today.
So if I could, Mayor, I mean, the issues that were raised by Sustainable Saratoga and followed up in your email were discussed at yesterday's pre-agenda, and it was clearly indicated at yesterday's pre-agenda that we would address them this evening. But it should also be clear that this is not the first time we're addressing these issues. We, as staff, have met with Sustainable Saratoga on a number of occasions and discussed these issues. And we've also discussed them with you and the other members of City Council when we prepared draft 1, draft 2, and draft 3, indicating the concerns that we had been hearing from constituents and members of the community and sharing them with you and getting input and advice and guidance from you.
So I actually sent this email that I'm looking at right now after we finished pre-agenda to kind of summarize what my concerns were. And that's what I was hoping to have a response from. You guys have been great with meeting with me. I would love to vote for this. There's a lot that's in this document. There's a ton of information in it, and issues come to my attention after the public has seen it and after we've just released a draft. We just released draft 3. These were the concerns that were brought up. I think they're being articulated in a really timely manner. I don't think articulating these concerns is slowing down the process or derailing the process at all. I think, my request was just to have 2 weeks to get to the next city council meeting so I could address these to my satisfaction and also to the many, many, many people who have emailed and called to their satisfaction as well. I'm not sure why that was such a monumental request. I don't see it as being such an imposition, but again, I don't feel really comfortable voting for this unless I have a clear explanation on what the impact of having those uses in the Greenbelt will be. So I'd love to say yes. I can't at this moment, but I appreciate the time and attention you give to this.
Any other comments from the council?
I just had a question, Vince. So this is, like you said, this is not obviously the final vote. This is to send it to the county, the planning, and I think you said design review also. I couldn't hear that one part because I was breaking in and out. And they have a certain time period to get back to us. I think you said 60 days yesterday, or they could file for an extension or whatever. But the city planning board's been working on this process with you, with Camaris and you guys. Yeah. My question to you is, when it comes back, let's say it comes back with, basically unchanged or with some recommendations, is there a time period that the council has to vote within after we get that back? Does it become stale like after 30 days or 60 days or 90 days? Or, because that was a concern I was getting from some people that weren't sure on that. I didn't believe that was the case, but I wanted to ask you on that.
No, and you've articulated the process pretty well, Commissioner, and it was the DRC. I'm sorry if that didn't come out clear.
It's my internet, yeah.
Yeah, so it's the city and county planning boards and the Design Review Commission. They have, under the current ordinance, 60 days in which to provide their advisory opinions unless that time is extended based on mutual agreement. And once the council receives those advisory opinions, you can take the time that you deem appropriate to digest those opinions, to make any appropriate changes. And this is similar to what we did with the zoning map amendments. And quite frankly, there were 18 proposed amendments that were provided to them, and 17 were found to be consistent with the comprehensive plan and not contrary to the city zoning ordinance, but they found one of them to have an issue. And the city council took that under consideration and acted appropriately. So you're not binding yourself to any document. You're not approving any document. You're simply allowing our land use boards. These are individuals trained in the very issues that we're asking them to review it and provide you with advisory opinions. That's all.
So,
okay, I was just going to follow up with the second question on that. Then the second question would be, whatever happens, it comes back to us. If we, and obviously there's the biggest concern I'm still hearing is just because we haven't had open meetings because of COVID, which is nobody's fault. COVID's COVID. It's done this to the whole world. So if we did make changes to the document that came back, my guess, maybe we deleted 1 or 2 or 3 items there. Does it have to go back for merit again?
It would depend on the substance and substantiality of those particular changes. So if they rose to the level of a change that we would want the land use boards to provide an advisory opinion on, then it would be probably a good idea to do so. Part of, in what we saw with again, using as the example, the land use map changes, the recommendation that council ultimately went with was that recommendation which was provided by the planning board, which was different than what was submitted to them in the original instance. So in that case, the planning board had already given you an opinion on what they thought was appropriate, even though it was different. So if that similar case occurs, no, you don't need to send it back. But if something other than that happens that is substantial enough that you want the land use board's opinion on that and it may be appropriate, we'll take that under consideration.
So most likely, though, that would be not a deletion, but an addition of something else into a zone, right? Because that was my, obviously, everybody's received a million phone calls and emails on this. And we've done, we just did one of these last week for merit. So, I mean, it's a lot more common, I think, than people know the merit part of it. And then it comes back for the vote. But so this isn't the end of the game. This is just to get basically opinions from the various boards to say, maybe we are correct or maybe we aren't.
Right.
Thanks.
I guess I just have concerns that if 2 weeks is not, I'm under so much pressure right now to vote yes to this and not to give me 2 weeks to clarify these issues with people who are really concerned about the Greenbelt. I can't imagine I'm going to be given a whole lot of time, or people are going to be given a lot of time to consider this after we've completed this next round and it is given back to the city council if 2 weeks is such an issue right now. So.
Well, I would say, unless I'm going to say right now, unless I would not, we have to wait. This is going to take, we're not going to get this back at the next meeting, I presume. So, but I would really be hard pressed to vote on anything unless we have, meetings in person down the road on this. I think Commissioner Madigan said that in the past, and I'm sure most of us, it's hard to do this with Zoom. I know we have gone through this, and it seemed like a century ago that we first started, and we were at the rec center. We went because of the fire. It's just been kind of a tough situation. And I think we are going to have a track season again. So the Honorable Matt Jones, who I like a lot, but I would be really hard pressed to be voting on this during track season. But I think take 60 days from now, even 30 days, we're well into June, and push this to July, and then we have to review it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And I do think that, we have a schedule, and, we're trying to bring this home, because if it doesn't come home by the end of the year, then it's done. It's over. It's a dead project. So that's what we're working on. And again, Commissioner Frank, I appreciate the in-person meetings. We all want that, but we need to do some work here in City Hall first. So I think that we're working on that as we speak. So any other comments? Commissioner Madigan, do you have anything?
Yeah, definitely. I received all the emails, and I understand the concerns. I think I understand them even a little bit better today. Of course, we know that our zoning ordinances have to be in alignment with our comprehensive plan. That's basically what the planning board will do. This is pretty much standard procedure at this time. This is not the be all and end all of the process. This is one of the steps in the process, and it is actually required. And it's time now to move it on to the boards for their opinion. I know that I personally have read all of the letters and understand some of the issues. As we want to maybe look at things like campgrounds, marinas, and nurseries, and potentially 7 other items, and define potentially, and maybe ask the planning board to help us define this, because this is what they're good at, the level of use and development for many of these uses. And of course, it has to be in line with the spirit of the comprehensive plan, as I keep saying, and the Greenbelt, the R1 district. So this is actually an opportunity for the public. I do want to get back to meeting with the public, and I know we have to implement a few security things at City Hall. Maybe there's something that we can start to do for the planning board and even city council meetings, so that we have some level of security, especially if we know a lot of people might want to attend and talk to the council and talk to the planning board and maybe DRC about the UDO. So there's a potential option to get more public involvement. And I'm also hoping that by the time the document does come back to us with some opinions from the boards, that we will have our issues under control, and we can start meeting with the public, and we can actually have additional public hearings on the UDO before we bring it for a vote. So there's a lot more time left for the public to be involved, for Sustainable Saratoga to be involved. I know that we would like to have more robust input in person. And I do agree with that, but right now it does seem like it is time to move this on to the land use boards. I think it is at a point where we're ready for a merit, but it's that advisory opinion. And I have a history of writing letters to the planning board and saying, could you please help me define and understand, A, B, C, and X, Y, Z. And I will likely do that again, because this is that important. So thank you, Mayor. Thank you to Camaros. Thank you to your staff. This is a long time coming. I also hope that this starts to free them up, because I know they've been very dedicated working on this process, and they'll still be involved because they still work directly with the planning board. And off we are, I hope, to see the next step in this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Scirocco, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I got a quick comment. I think we've all heard the expression "so close and yet so far." I think we're close. I think there's a lot of good suggestions by the consultants. I do still have some concerns, but I think it's the right thing to do at this point is to get it to the land use boards, have them take a look at it, and then give us some recommendations. I think everybody's had issues with COVID and being homebound and not being able to get out and actually talk. And I understand everybody's frustration. So I think now more than ever, it's important that, we give the land use board, specifically the planning board, the opportunity to take a good look at it, because they deal with it for the most part every day, at least, on a regular schedule. So I'm going to support this, for that reason. Like I said, so down the road, I think, if we need to make some suggestions, and I think I'm going to stay in touch with the planning board, because again, I do have some other concerns. Potentially, maybe I need to talk with the city attorney about, because I did read a few things in it today that jumped out at me, and the potential of there could be a conflict with the city charter and the specific departments. So, I need to talk to the city attorney about that. But having said that, and I know certainly that the Greenbelt is sacred, and I don't want to see anything potentially harm that piece of it. Boundaries in the city are disappearing, and it's been something that's been happening for a long time. But I think Camaros did a good job, putting this all together. There were some concerns that got addressed. Thankfully they looked at that. So with that, I'll stop rambling on here, and again, I'm going to support it.
Thank you. The only comment that I want to make is that I had emails sent to me personally saying that I'm destroying the Greenbelt. I don't relish the Greenbelt. they have not looked at my record over the last 4 years, because myself and this council have protected that greenbelt in every aspect of what we do. So, and I've written back to people telling them that I take offense to it, because I do. And I just feel that I wanted to put it on the record that I don't think you'll find a council that has worked harder to protect the city and the country. So any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed?
Okay. Nay.
Okay. Any abstentions? The matter passes. My next item is discussion and vote approval to adopt the Citizens Advisory Committee recommendations 2021 CDBG funding. The Community Development Department is requesting approval of the CDCAC's recommended CDBG annual action plan as presented to the City Council by the CDCAC Chair Rich Ferguson on Monday, March 29th, 2021. The required 30-day public comment period and public hearing have concluded with no comments received. I move that the City Council approve the adoption of the Citizens Advisory Committee recommendations for the 2021 CDBG funding. This is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The matter passes. My next item is discussion and vote approval to reimburse employee number 2175 in the amount of $224.85. The Recreation Department is requesting approval to reimburse employee number 2175 in the amount of $224.85. The reimbursement is for tiles purchased to protect the floor in the Recreation Center game room. I move that the City Council approve the reimbursement of employee number 2175 in the amount of $224.85 for the purchase of tiles to protect the floor in the Recreation Center game room. This is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The matter passes. My next item is discussion and vote approve the updated return to the Recreation Operational Plan. John Hurleman, our administrator at the Recreation Department, met with the task force on 4/30/21. The return to Recreation Operational Plan has been updated in accordance with the CDC and the State of New York guidelines. A red line version and clean version were attached to the agenda. I move that the City Council approve the updated return to Recreation Operational Plan in accordance with the CDC and the State of New York guidelines. This is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes. My next item is discussion and vote appointment to the Downtown Special Assessment District. Tonight, I am asking the council to approve the appointment of Ashley Gardner as a replacement for Mary Ann Barker on the Downtown Special Assessment Board for the term of 5/4/21 to 7/31/23. Ashley Gardner is a native of Saratoga Springs. She attended SUNY Albany for both undergrad and master's program in geography and regional planning. Ashley works as a manager of a variety of office and retail buildings on Broadway. She represents and manages these family-owned properties on Broadway. I move that the City Council approve the appointment of Ashley Gardner to the Downtown Special Assessment District. This is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes. My next item is first public information meeting for the Missing Sidewalk Links project. The City of Saratoga Springs will be hosting the first public information session on the city's Missing Sidewalk Links project. At the May 18th City Council meeting, Barton and LaJudas with the city's engineering consultant will give an overview of the project team, project background, objective, and overview of the proposed information to access detailed information on the project. The project is supported by a $1.52 million grant through the 2019-2024 Federal Transportation Improvement Program, TIP. The federal funding provides 80% of the funding, and the city provides 20%, which is roughly $380,000. My next item is, let me just make sure that we're doing it. My next item is development and construction report, and I'm going to turn it over to Lisa Shields.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I just want to take a few minutes and very briefly share some highlights with you, some information that I have been just tracking over time, and I want to introduce, just give you some snapshots of it and introduce a new feature on our website, and then we'll get on with the rest of our meeting. So can you see my screen, Mayor? Can you see that? Yes. Yeah, okay. So just really briefly, the current situation with planning and building activity in our department, providing services to the public for development and construction in the city. We have some pretty healthy development and construction activity coming back to the city. This is probably not news, you can kind of feel it, but I like to see the numbers that substantiate it. In particular, if you look at the building department permit activity, we're 27% ahead of the average activity for the first 4 months of the year, the average of 2016 through 2019. So it's we definitely are feeling that, and it's interesting to see those numbers that support it. Right now, this is what the activity in the building and planning departments look like. Pretty heavy application volumes for both. And this is the new feature that I'd like to share with you on the in our planning department page as it loads. Hopefully we're going to see that. Yeah, great. All right, we've been having some internet problems tonight, so that's probably what's going on there. Okay, so when you get a chance, please do visit the planning department page and look for this button, View Active Applications, because there's a really great map of the activity in the city, and you can see where the applications are located around the city, and click on each of the buttons and get some more information on each project. So I'm sorry that that's not coming up. Same thing with the building department. I'm going to get that same result. Okay, so the pie chart here shows you also that the majority, over 40% of, that's not a majority, but 40% of the activity that we have with permit types is in the residential, either new or alteration. You know, again, where we can feel that in the community, you can see and hear about a lot of residential construction going on in the city. If you take a look at the estimated construction value for permits issued over the last 5 years, already this year, we have issued permits valued at approximately $53 million. You can see the trends over the last 5 years. And then with revenues, current revenues against budget, we're quite far ahead against our budget revenues for land use board fees, and 30% of our budget for the building department fees. There's probably quite a bit of that that budget for fees in the queue, as well as about $50 million in estimated construction value in that queue. And these last two charts just show that, again, right now through April, if you take a look at the last 5 years, that we're kind of at the same level that we were in 2019 for the number of applications, the number of permits issued in the first 4 months of the year. And the chart on the right shows that the average time to permit, so how long is it taking us to get a permit, pretty much follows that. When we were at the levels in 2020, which were obviously lower because of COVID, we actually did approach, 6 weeks turnaround, which is much more amenable, and but that's obviously at a much lower rate. So I wanted at least to make sure that the public understands, that the activity, the volume of information of applications that we're handling right now is certainly taking effect. So again, I apologize, Council, that we weren't able to show you this map, but that was really the highlight of my presentation. So
that's okay. Thanks, Lisa.
Right, thank you.
I think it was great. The numbers tell a story, but I think that for the people submitting their permits to see the action of where their permit is in real time is what we were trying to let them see on the website. So I think that if we can drive people to the website before, they start calling us and saying what's going on, they could actually look and see where they are. We are really, really behind because, we're 27% higher than we ever have been. So we just have to, we're trying to keep up with it, and we're doing the best that we can. And we're coming out of COVID, and we're also coming out of a financial crunch. So we have to just be patient. And I do thank you, Lisa, for putting that together and just presenting to the public.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I'll be sure to take a look at it, and hopefully we'll, continue to receive some good news. And, I know you guys are working hard up there in the planning department.
Right. Thank you, Commissioner. My next item is number 12, and it's a proclamation. May is National Bike Month. So I have a proclamation. Whereas May is National Bike Month, sponsored by the League of American Bicyclists and celebrated in communities from coast to coast. And whereas National Bike Month was established in 1956 and is a chance to showcase the many benefits of bicycling and encourage more folks to giving biking a try. And whereas Saratoga Springs is proud to celebrate the recent opening of the Geyser Road Trail, adding 2+ more miles to our growing Saratoga Greenbelt Trail system. Whereas the Complete Streets Advisory Board, the New York State, Saratoga Spa Park, Saratoga County, Bike-a-Toga, and the Saratoga Chamber of Commerce are all promoting bicycle tourism year-round to attract more visitors to enjoy our local restaurants, hotels, retail establishments, and cultural and scenic attractions. Now, therefore, I, Meg Kelly, Mayor of the City of Saratoga Springs, in recognition of the National Bike Month, urges everyone to bike to work and try cycling for fun, fitness, or transportation. And that's the end of my agenda. And I will turn it over to Commissioner Frank of Accounts.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item is award of bid, extension of bid for hydrofluorosilicic acid and sodium silicofluoride to Amrex Chemical Company, Inc. Upon the recommendation of the Department of Public Works, I move to extend the award of bid for hydrofluorosilicic acid and sodium silicofluoride to Amrex Chemical Company, Inc. for an additional year under the same terms, conditions, prices as is in bid 2019-24, and that's a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes.
Thank you, Mayor. The second item is award of bid, extension of bid for orthophosphate to Surplus Chemical Company, Inc. Upon the recommendation of the Department of Public Works, I move to extend the award of bid for orthophosphate to Surplus Chemical, Inc. for an additional year under the same terms, conditions, and prices as in bid 2019-24. And again, that's a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes.
Thank you, Mayor. The third item is just again an update announcement. Grievance Day will be Tuesday, May 25th, 2021. Grievance Day applications to grieve your assessment are now on the city's webpage. Also, there has been a box that we have placed in the hallway accessible by the ramp door of City Hall for residents to drop off their grievance packets for review by the Board of Assessment Review. Because due to COVID, we won't be able to be meeting again in person. So this will be the second straight year which we're not able to do that. Please feel free to contact the City Assessment Office at area code 518-587-3550, extension 2552 with any questions. And the last item is another award of bid for professional services for Gilbert Road drainage improvements to MJ Engineering and Land Surveying PC. Upon the recommendation of the Department of Public Works, I move to award the bid for professional services for Gilbert Road drainage improvement to MJ Engineering and Land Surveying PC for an amount not to exceed $80,200, and that's a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes.
Thank you, Mayor. That concludes my agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner. On to Finance, Commissioner Madigan.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item on my agenda this evening is a discussion, the 2020 preliminary financial report. Each year, the city is required to provide the state with a summary of the prior budget year by April 30th, known as the Annual Financial Report Update Document, or AFR. This document has been submitted in a timely basis. We submitted it on April 28th, 2021. The 2020 preliminary report provides a summary of the AFR, a summary of the city financial position at year-end 2020. This is used as the city's quarter financial report required by the city charter, section 4.4.9, quarterly financial reports. So this is our fourth quarterly report. The report will be published on the city website and sent to council tomorrow. The finance office is also preparing the 2020 financial statements. A date for our audit to commence has not yet been sent, so these are unaudited, unofficial numbers. Upon completion of the audit, the Commissioner of Finance will release the audited figures. Please note that all numbers in the actual written report are rounded to the nearest thousand unless otherwise stated. In the general fund 2020, the AFR indicates a total $13,758,000 general fund balance as of 12/31/20. $9,228,000 is categorized by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, or GASB number 54, as restricted and unassigned. These funds may be used within the confines of the city's fund balance policy established per the state's recommendation, as well as the best budget practices. An additional $4,530,000 is categorized per GASB number 54 as restricted, assigned, and non-spendable. Use of these funds is limited to specific purposes that it can be used for. The 2020 general fund had an annual operating deficit of $3 million. In 25 years, the city has not experienced an operating deficit of this magnitude. At this time, the unrestricted, unassigned fund balance is predicted to fall within an acceptable range of 10 to 25%, as outlined in the city's fund balance policy adopted by the council on November 17th, 2020. This is due to the city council actions to release all assignments except for the refund of prior year taxes and the 2021 adopted expenditure budget, the denominator being less than in previous years. It also has to do with borrowing twice the TANs for a total of $11.6 million, $5 million of which was borrowed in December of 2020. The amount is calculated for fund balance by taking the audited balance available in the unrestricted unassigned fund balance of the city's general fund for the most recently audited fiscal year and divided by the adopted expenditure budget for the ensuing fiscal year for the city's general fund. For revenues in the general fund, sales tax decreased from 2019 by 18%. 2020 sales tax collections were $11,074,000, a $2,369,000 decrease from 2019 actual collections. Sales tax collections were strained by the pandemic's restrictions. This is the lowest sales tax has been in 7 years. The 2020 adopted budget was $13,550,000 and was revised down to $10,281,000. So the city exceeded the revised budget by $793,000. Hotel occupancy tax decreased by 60%. 2020 actual collections were $267,000, a decrease of $396,000 from 2019. 2020 budget was $676,000. This is the lowest occupancy tax has been in 18 years. Utilities gross receipt tax decreased from 2019. Amounts received were $387,000 in 2020 and $408,000 in 2019. Receipts were $13,000 less than budgeted in 2020. Franchise fees decreased during 2020 by 4%. Actual receipts of $557,000 exceeded the adopted budget by $4,000. Ambulance fees decreased in 2020 by $91,000. $1,034,000 was collected, an 8% decrease from last year. Actual amounts were less than the 2020 budget by $281,000. Admissions tax was zero in 2020 since the track was not permitted to have spectators due to the pandemic. $723,300 was budgeted for 2020, and in 2019, the city received $429,000 due to a change in the way the formula is calculated by NYRA. VLT aid was $1,860,000 in 2020, a decrease of $465,000 or 20% from 2019. The amount budgeted for 2020 was $2,325,592. Mortgage tax receipts decreased in 2020. Actual receipts for 2020 were $1,535,000, 3% less than in 2019. The budget for 2020 was $1,600,000. Fines and forfeited bail decreased 72% or $67,000 from 2019. The 2020 budget was $125,000. Overall, total general fund revenues in 2020 were $5 million less than 2019. Total revenues for the general fund were $41.3 million, $5.6 million less than the revised budget. Total revenues have not been this low since 2014. General fund expenses. Health insurance costs were $7,188,000 in 2020. This was a decrease of 1% from 2019. 2020 actual expenses were $611,000, less than the revised budget. The expense represents 16% of the entire general fund expense budget. Retirement costs increased 5.3%. 2020 total actual retirement expenses were $4,533,000 and were $49,000 less than budgeted. The city once again took advantage of the discount and paid the bill on 12/15, saving $46,000. Social Security expenses in 2020 were $1,681,000, $189,000 less than budgeted, and $79,000 less than last year. Savings in Social Security were the result of the voluntary furloughs. Utility costs were budgeted for $580,000, and actual expenses were $553,000. Actual expense in 2020 were $72,000 more than fiscal year 2019. This increase is the result of a change in vendors and the solar credits not being properly applied for a number of months. Overtime costs totaled $795,000 in 2020, which was a 38% decrease from 2019. Overtime was originally budgeted at $1,170,000 and later revised down to $922,000 for 2020. Sick leave payments to employees who separate from the city were $302,000, a $50,000 decrease from 2019. This expense will fluctuate from year to year based on the number of retirements. Payments for compensatory time amounted to $431,000, a 30% decrease from 2019. Compensatory time payouts were originally budgeted for $691,000 and later revised to $433,000. Total personal services costs, excluding Social Security, were $918,000 less than in 2019. This was primarily the result of the voluntary furloughs. These costs represent 52% of the entire general fund expense budget. Discount on taxes, which is recorded as an expense in the finance budget, was $11,000 more than last year. Total general fund expenses were $2.8 million less than in 2019, $7.4 million less than the adopted budget, and $3.8 million less than the revised budget. It's important to note that $1.3 million was encumbered at year end. Encumbrances are goods or services which are ordered or committed to in 2020, but will be received and paid for in 2021. Therefore, the actual unspent, uncommitted variance was $2.5 million. The primary reasons for this budget versus actual variance are all noted above. Other funds, the water fund ended 2020 with a positive assigned unappropriated fund balance of $3,184,000. Total fund balance increased $303,000. The sewers fund's assigned unappropriated fund balance for 2020 was $1,617,000, a decrease of approximately $658,000. The city center's fund balance as of 12/31/2020 was $10,841,000. $951,000 was restricted for capital projects, and the remainder was restricted for city center operations. The city center suffered an operating loss of $5.8 million due to the pandemic restrictions on events. Our debt limit, the city's self-imposed debt limit was $91,782,000 as of December 31st, 2020. As of year end, there were outstanding bonds of $71,583,000, of which $20,119,000 represented projects whose debt was excluded from the calculation. This leaves $40,318,000 available for future bonding. The city made $3,184,000 in regular principal payments in 2020. In June of 2020, the city issued $7,428,000 in new debt for various capital projects. The city also refinanced the 2011 and 2012 bonds at a savings of $1.2 million. This is in addition to previous savings due to refinancing that has been undertaken during my tenure. Long-term liabilities, the value of accumulated sick and compensatory time on December 31st, 2020 for all city employees was $4,323,000, an increase of $52,000 from 2019. The city also owes $175,000 in future lease payments for various pieces of equipment. The long-term liability calculated for post-employment benefits provided to employees at retirement or health insurance was valued at $136,580,000 as of December 31st, 2020, an increase of $24,775,000. This increase is due to a change in methodology as required by GASB 75. Beginning in 2015, the city was required to report the costs and obligations associated with pensions. This was primarily to increase the consistency and comparability of pension information across governments. The information included in the city's general ledger was provided by New York State and the local retirement system, since the city is a member of the plans they administer. The net pension liability reported by the city as of 12/31/2020 was $29,430,000. These obligations added to the outstanding bonded debt noted above that I just discussed. These obligations added to the outstanding bonded debt that I just discussed amount to $242,168,000 in long-term liabilities. Total long-term liabilities in 2019 were $193,293,000. Therefore, long-term debt increased 25% as a result of post-employment benefits for health insurance and pensions. Our cash balances. Cash balance as of December 31st, 2020 in the general fund were $18,808,000, $6,127,000 more than in 2019. The increase in cash on hand as of 12/31 is due to 2 tax anticipation notes the city issued during 2020. The city borrowed a total of $11.3 million to address cash flow deficiencies expected for 2020 and 2021 as a result of the pandemic. Reserve balances declined due to planned drawdowns, but also because the city was unable to add to them during 2020 for the first time in many years. We've always added to our reserve balances. Comments for future years. While we are still faced with financial challenges, I feel optimistic about our ability to restore long-term financial stability. Vaccinations, busy streets, announcements of the track opening with spectators, SPAC releasing a schedule again, and travel in the U.S. being permitted, I feel the city will begin to thrive again. However, we must continue to be diligent, monitor revenues and expenses, and make adjustments based on actual data. The 2022 budget will need to be conservative and will not be a return to pre-pandemic spending. The majority of the cash we had on hand as of 12/31/2020 was a loan, and we need to work towards paying that back. Reimbursements for grants and aid from New York State are taking considerable time to arrive, also straining cash resources. While the announcement of the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, funds came as welcome news, it was not the level of funding our hard-hit city had hoped to receive. To date, we still do not know when we will receive the funds. We have been told it will be dispersed in 2 installments over a couple of years, and the qualifying period ends on December 31st, 2024. It is possible we will not receive funds during fiscal year 2021. I remind you that the 2021 budget calls for $5 million in federal funds. I would also like to work towards having the city's negative outlook removed from the bond rating. National GFOA has provided guidance on ARPA funds, and I will be referring to this guidance when working with the City Council to rebuild city finances. GFOA guidance suggests using American Rescue Plan funds primarily for non-recurring expenditures. It is not advised to use funds to create new programs or add-ons to existing programs that require an ongoing financial commitment. Rather, to give high priority to replenishing reserves to rebuild financial flexibility and stability and restore fiscal resiliency. Use of American Rescue Plan funds to cover operating deficits caused by COVID-19 should be considered temporary, and additional budget restraint may be necessary to maintain structural balance in future budgets. This will reduce the burden on taxpayers and allow potential rate increases to be nominal and not at all in 1 year. Investment in critical infrastructure is particularly well suited for the use of ARPA funds, but care should be taken to assess any ongoing operating costs that may be associated with the project. Throughout the pandemic, the city has continued to invest in infrastructure improvements, and I encourage the council continue to do so, but to also focus on grants so that American Rescue Plan funds can be used for other priorities not eligible for grants. GFOA says that rating agencies will evaluate a government's use of American Rescue Plan funds in formulating its credit opinion, and importantly, will consider the city's level of reserves and structural budget balance or efforts to return to structural balance as part of the credit analysis. We have work ahead of us. Challenging times are not over, but with careful and considerate planning, we can restore financial stability and ensure the city retains a AA+ bond rating. It's a team effort, and I look forward to working with the City Council, employees, and preparing the city for a new Commissioner of Finance once elected. And that's a summary of the annual report. I don't know if anybody has any questions. If I don't know the answer, I can get back to you. I did mean to have this out to you for the meeting today. Somehow that slipped, but I'll make sure you have a full hard copy tomorrow, and it will be uploaded to the city website.
Great, thank you. That's what I was going to ask. Thank you. Thank you for that report.
It's positive news. It's mixed news. You know, it's a good snapshot at the end of the year, and a lot of that had to do with borrowing. I will be presenting the quarterly report at the next meeting, and that's really going to give me a much better idea of where we sort of are today.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Item number 2 is an update on city finances. This is our ongoing report on city revenue, expenses, and cash flow, as well as the status of federal and state funding. At the federal level, no new information on the American Rescue Plan Act distribution or payment schedule. At the state level, effective May 19th, New York State is joining with neighboring states, New Jersey and Connecticut, to ease COVID restrictions on businesses. At the city level, I have met with each department with a meeting pending with the Department of Public Works. I plan to bring 2021 budget amendments to the council by mid-June, as discussed. The 2021 expense budgets that were allotted are predicated on receiving 2021 revenue amounts budgeted. In prior years, we have had sufficient cash to cover occasional revenue deficits. This year we do not, but we're still trying to get a better accurate picture of our revenues. In fact, our current cash flow includes that 11.3 million in loans. While we work within the revenue that we have collected and plan to collect through the remainder of the year, I am keenly aware of each department's essential needs that must be addressed and the sacrifices that have been made thus far. Item number 3 is a discussion and vote, Beacon Saratoga Workforce Housing Pilot Resolution and Agreement. This will favor a housing project on 1.51 acres on Excelsior Avenue that will accommodate the construction of 56 low-income housing for various household incomes ranging from 30 to 90% of the area median income, AMI, for the Albany, Schenectady, Troy, New York metropolitan area. This will also include 5,171 square feet of ground floor commercial space intended for use of at least one non-for-profit charitable purposes designed to address resident needs, surface parking, and other ancillary needs. The city agrees to a grant payment in lieu of taxes, a pilot agreement, for 32 years. It allows for a 2-year period for the development to occur and set the payments at $5,000 and $10,000 respectively. Therefore, the pilot will require an annual payment of $19,600 and then increase it at intervals every 5 years with payments of $21,000, $22,400, $25,000, and $26,600. The pilot will last as long as the housing facilities are available for use by the tenants as designated, and as long as commercial space is not occupied, and as long as commercial space is occupied by a New York for-profit or non-charitable purposes. I move that the City Council. I also wanted to state that this pilot was looked over by the City Attorney, Tony Papaluzio, the City Assessor in the Accounts Office, and Christine Gilmet-Brown, the Director of Finance in the Finance Department. I move that the City Council approve the Beacon, and don't forget Lindsay Connors. She had a lot to do with this pilot too in the Mayor's office. I apologize about that. Okay. I move that the City Council approve the Beacon Saratoga Workforce Housing Pilot Resolution and Agreement as included with the agenda. This is a motion.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes.
Thank you. Item number 4. And I think I'm looking at too many numbers. Item number 4 is a discussion and vote authorization for the mayor to sign a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, regarding a grant to the city of Saratoga Springs from the New York State Empire State Development to ESD to be administered by the New York State Technology Enterprise Corporation, NICE-Tech, for a pilot program regarding the construction and implementation of LED streetlights incorporating public Wi-Fi and video analytics. The Finance Department, working with Tina Carton, the Administrator of Parks, Open Space, Sustainability, and Historic Preservation, received a grant from New York State ESD to establish a pilot program for the conversion to LED lighting and installation of technical equipment, which saves funds and incorporates public Wi-Fi and video analytics. This involves multiple partners. Our most critical one at this time, however, is NICE-Tech, an organization that has serviced the city for several years with numerous sustainability and smart city measures at substantial discounts. The MOU is a general overview of the $100,000 grant that has been awarded to the city from Empire State Development. The grant will be used to fund a 1-year pilot project coordinated by NICE-Tech. As of now, the 2 locations that have been discussed for the grant's implementation are the Saratoga Springs Public Library's surface parking lot area and the Saratoga Springs Housing Authority. However, tonight's MOU only references the grant and its planned administration by NICE-Tech. The MOU on my May 19th agenda will pertain to the grant's implementation at the 2 test locations. There are 2 main benefits to this grant opportunity. 1, the energy savings efficiency light bulb conversion, and 2, the free public Wi-Fi for our residents in public housing with increased safety data analytics. And the same public Wi-Fi will be available in the surface parking lot area of the public library. As we learn more, it may be that each location receives one of the 2 benefits. For instance, the library may, though, just receive the benefit of energy savings from the LED bulb conversion, and the housing authority may receive the benefit of the free Wi-Fi. Dan Rancor, the city electrician, has provided a rough estimate of about 2 hours streetlight at the library for the LED conversion. There are 15 lights in the library's parking lot, which I also believe is a long-term lease deal with the city, which is why we keep that open to the public parking, which will require about 1 week of time for 2 people. There is nothing required from DPW for streetlights at the Housing Authority. To provide the benefit of free public Wi-Fi in the public outdoor area of the library, as well as the parking analytics, Dan does believe it will take longer if the project needs to get conduit and cabling to the parking lot. Nice Tech is currently figuring out whether this can be done more cost effectively, but this will be hammered out over the next few weeks. Nice Tech does need the MOU to provide ESD, confirming the city's commitment to the project. Finance will bring the contract to council within the next month. The MOU will satisfy current requirements. We do not plan to use any more DPW electrician time other than the 2 hours of streetlight time for the library for the LED conversion. I move that the City Council authorize the mayor to sign a memorandum of understanding MOU regarding the grant to the city of Saratoga Springs from the New York State Empire State ESD, Empire State Development, to be administered by the New York State Technology Enterprise Corporation, Nice Tech, for a pilot program regarding the construction and implementation of LED streetlights, incorporating public Wi-Fi and video analytics as included with the agenda. This is a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I want to clarify one thing that Commissioner Madigan said. In regards to the city electrician, we look for an agreement for the city on the library, in the library parking lot. That's private property. And the part of the agreement said it was 2 hours, right about the 2 hours, but it's 2 hours for 2 employees for a whole week. So, again, we're going to
figure it out without, we can probably figure it out without DPW's assistance, if that's your concern.
If we get paid to do the work in there, I don't see a problem with that, but there could be a problem if we get in there and, again, it's private property. So, but I think we can probably work that out. But I just want to make you aware of that, and make the council aware of that.
Okay.
So.
Any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes.
Thank you, council. Item number 5 is a discussion and vote approval to pay invoice 3000291 in the amount of $1,000 to Bolton St. John's for governmental services. At the March 29th council meeting, we approved a 3-month extension of our contract for assistance from Bolton St. John at the continued monthly rate of $1,000 per month, totaling $3,000. Bolton has been instrumental in assisting the city through the last few state budget processes. This was a critical juncture in the adoption of the New York State budget, particularly as it related to the restoration of VLT aid, which was ultimately restored. Purchasing informs us that the purchase order was not submitted and received in time for the first invoice. This motion asks the council for approval to pay for 1 month of services rendered. I move that the city council approve payment of invoice 3000291 in the amount of $1,000 to Bolton St. John's for governmental services as included with the agenda. This is a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The matter passes.
Thank you. Item number 6, discussion and vote, budget transfer payroll. Lines 1 through 2, transfer funds to cover wages for a part-time clerk in the front finance office, which is now down to 2 employees who cover cash collections totaling millions of dollars. Vacation, sick, and personal time hamper the ability to serve the public, and we require 2 people to be upfront at all times at the amount of cash coming through the office. Since payroll, warrants, bond payments, tax collections, etc., cannot by law be stopped, a part-time person to cover has become essential. Lines 3 and 4 transfer water funds to rubble appropriations from Social Security in the amount of $368.40. Lines 5 through 10 transfer funds to the water and sewer sick leave and associated Social Security from water and sewer Social Security in the amount of $229 $2,056.86. Lines 11 through 12, transfer funds to police officers 207C for active but disabled police officer wages from the police officer's regular wages in the amount of $21,556.57. Lines 13 through 15, transfer funds to a part-time administrative aide for the building department from a currently vacant for planning and economic development line in the amount of $13,348.60. Yes, hold on, I got to go back to something. Lines 16 through 21, transfer funds to various lines covering CHIPS labor, overtime, and Social Security expenses from CHIPS lines for rubble in the amount of $93,000. So the transfer for the part-time finance person is $15,600. I move that the City Council approve the budget transfers payroll as included with the agenda. This is a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The matter passes.
Thank you. Discussion and vote, budget transfers contingency. Lines 1 through 3, transfer to civil service for wages and Social Security to cover a part-time clerk for the expense appropriation set aside for contingencies such as contract negotiations, emergencies, unexpected opportunities, and other city needs in the amount of $7,536. A portion of this expense will be reimbursed in 2022 by the city school district. Prior to this transfer, the contingency line held $227,581.83. Subsequent to this transfer, there will remain $220,045.83. I move that the City Council approve the budget transfers contingency as included with the agenda. This is a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes.
Item number 8, discussion and vote, budget amendments, payroll. Lines 1 through 32, amend the budget to include expenses for indoor recreation, facility supervision, wages, and Social Security on increased revenue room. I don't even know what this says. It's in the amount of $10,000, and it's for recreation. I move that the City Council approve the budget amendments, payroll, as included with the agenda. This is a motion.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The matter passes.
I'm not sure I can actually read anymore. That concludes my agenda. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. On to Public Works, Commissioner Saratoga.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item on my agenda is discussion and vote. This is authorization for the mayor to sign a contract with Schindler Elevator Corporation for the City Hall North Elevator upgrade in the amount of $70,391. The following contract with Schindler Elevators to modernize the existing north elevator in City Hall. The new elevator system will incorporate state-of-the-art technology and support and expertise for reliable and safe operation. This contract is a piggyback contract with Sourcewell. The contract and bid proposal have been previously distributed with the agenda. Therefore, I move for the mayor to sign a contract with Schindler Elevator Corporation for the City Hall North Elevator upgrade in the amount of $70,391. I'm going to put that in front of a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The matter passes.
Second item on my agenda is discussion and vote. Authorization to pay invoice number 051-6140 to Mahoney Notifier Plus Incorporated in the amount of $295.70. The following invoice with Mahoney Notifier is for service to relocate the panel and check phone lines at the ice rink. Prior to 2021, the work performed by Mahoney was processed as a public works service by a verbal purchase order. The service provided by Mahoney has recently been identified as a professional service and requires a formal PO to meet the purchasing policy requirements. Therefore, I move for the approval to pay invoice number 051-6140 to Mahoney Notifier Plus in the amount of $295.70, and I put that in front of the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The matter passes.
Third item on the agenda is discussion and vote. This is authorization for the mayor to accept a donation from the New York State Civil War Sesquicentennial Committee in the amount of $4,329.44. The city of Saratoga Springs will be accepting the donation of $4,329.44 from the New York State Civil War Sesquicentennial Committee. On Thursday, July 16, 2020, vandals destroyed the historic 77th Infantry Regiment monument that resides in Congress Park. This donation will be used for assistance with security of the Civil War monument in Congress Park. The 150th committee was formed in 2015 to bring attention to New York's role in the Civil War. And at this time, I'd like to personally thank the New York State Civil War Sesquicentennial Committee for their generous donation and their continued efforts on helping preserve our history. Therefore, I move for the mayor to accept the donation from the New York State Civil War Sesquicentennial Committee in the amount of $4,329.44, and I put that in front of the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Thank you to the committee for that donation.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes.
Fifth item on my agenda is just an announcement on the Department of Public Works Facebook page. Today I'm happy to announce that the Department of Public Works will be creating its own Facebook page to share important information with the public. Up until now, the department has relied on sharing information through press releases, the city's website, or the city's Facebook page. But as the public expects to get more information straight from DPW, I thought it was important for our department to have its own page. DPW will provide updates on projects, emergency events, water and sewer information, along with other helpful information that will allow the public to know more about DPW provided services. DPW staff are currently setting up the page and establishing internal controls for posting information which will mirror the existing city policy. Residents will be able to get our page information by searching for Saratoga Springs DPW on Facebook. Next item on my agenda, number 5, announcement, just the spring tire recycling program. Saratoga County is hosting their annual tire recycling program. This program is open to all Saratoga County residents. The event will be held on Tuesday, May 25th from 4 to 5:30 p.m. at the Moreau Transfer Station at the corner of Route 9 and Butler Road in Moreau. Pre-registration and proof of residency are required to participate. And again, additional information can be found on the city's website and probably on our new Facebook site. Number 6 on my agenda is just another announcement, Arbor Day tree planting. On Friday, April 30th, I was joined by the city arborist, Steve Lashman, and New York State DEC Supervising Forester of Region 5, Jeff Speed, to celebrate Arbor Day with the planting of a new tree on Broadway. The city of Saratoga Springs has been recognized as Tree City USA since 2017 by the Arbor Day Foundation. And the planting of this new tree acknowledges the city's continued commitment to its urban forest. The city of Saratoga Springs has demonstrated a real commitment for protecting and promoting our urban forest. This has included investment from both the city and our community partners. DPW established a successful program managed by the city arborist in the Urban Forestry Division to support the Urban Forestry Master Plan and ensure that city trees are maintained and cared for. The Tree City USA program administered by the Arbor Day Foundation designates municipalities following the review of their investment, maintenance, and commitment to the urban tree canopy. The program requires spending of at least $2 per capita on urban forestry. Saratoga Springs budget approximately $11 per capita to manage its urban forest. In furtherance of the commitment to the urban forest, DPW recently applied for and was awarded a grant from the New York State DEC Urban and Community Forestry Program. The The grant will provide a street tree inventory and updated forest management plan for the city. An updated tree inventory and forest management plan will assist with decision-making on how best to support the health and viability of city trees. Although we would have liked to have a larger celebration of Arbor Day, in consideration of COVID, it was best to plant a new tree this year on Broadway. The newly planted tree is a yellow buckeye, which can grow up to 80 feet and blooms yellow flowers in the spring and produces orange leaves in the fall. And that was a nice little ceremony. The number 7 on my agenda is discussion and vote. This is authorization for the mayor to sign a contract with M&J Engineering and Land Surveying, PC, for professional services for Gilbert Road drainage improvements in the amount of $80,200. Recent flooding events are occurring along Gilbert Road at 2 subject drainage structures, which carry the tributaries of Lake Lonely under Gilbert Road. These events have resulted in the repeated closure of Gilbert Road, greatly inconveniencing residents and motorists. The flooding has caused damage to the roadway, requiring multiple repairs. The conditions have deteriorated so that the city considers it an emergency situation, as a potential failure could damage nearby property and endanger drivers and residents. To understand the conditions of flooding, the city of Saratoga Springs had retained Green Peterson engineers to perform the initial drainage study and schematic designs of the improvements. The scope of the services under this current RFP is for the final design, bidding, and construction inspection. A qualified proposal was submitted by M&J Engineering and Land Surveying PC. They are well-versed in highway and drainage design and are willing to work with us under this highly aggressive project schedule. Design completion is due by May 20th, and construction is to take place from early June to mid-July of 2021. Therefore, I move for the mayor to sign a contract with M&J Engineering and Land Surveying, PC, for Gilbert Road drainage improvements in the amount of $80,200, and I put that in front of the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I just want to say this project has been a project that we've been working on for a couple of years now. We've been working with DEC, we've worked with the Army Corps of Engineers out there, and we've spoken with all the neighbors out there. And it's been, Gilbert Road gets traveled quite a bit. And you might be familiar with the area that I'm talking about, where the flooding goes over the.
I know it well. Yeah.
And it's, in a lot of sense, it's the main thoroughfare for the fire trucks to go over to get out to the Eastern Plateau. So I think, like I said, it's been it's caused a lot of damage to the road. So it's something I think we.
Yeah, I've been over that road when it's flooded. It's not a good situation.
This repair can't come fast enough for me, so yeah. I'm glad we got to this point. And,
yes, I agree. Thank you, Commissioner. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes.
That concludes my agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner. On to Public Safety, Commissioner Dalton.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item on my agenda we already voted on, so thank you for that. Exciting news on the third station. The second item on my agenda is discussion and vote, amend Chapter 225, Section 225-81 of the City Code, Schedule 16, parking prohibited at all times. I make a motion to amend Chapter 225, Section 225-81 of the City Code, Schedule 16, parking prohibited at all times on Crescent Street on the south side between South Broadway and Joshua Road. This is a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I do have a comment on that. There's a problem with the dog park.
Yes.
Because it's too popular, so I don't know where people are going to park. I mean, and have you spoken with the park at all, Commissioner Dalton?
We've had extensive meetings discussing these issues. It's much more complicated than it looks at face value. I think you were CC'd on these emails in the beginning, but then deferred them to Commissioner Madigan.
Right.
So yes, it's something we're aware of.
Okay. Is anything coming out of the meetings? That was my question.
Not at this time. This is, as far as what the city can do, this is what's coming out of it right now.
Okay. So the park, okay.
So I met with them. I met with them, and we did make some suggestions because it has been very busy and very popular. It might be time to follow back up with them and maybe get the state parks involved. We thought some signage would be worthwhile.
I believe they were following up with Assemblywoman Warner, and then we were going to hear back from them after that meeting in terms of what the state could do while we took care of this component. So I think that's where we left off.
Yeah, we gave them some ideas to brainstorm. So, hopefully they will be back in touch after they reach out, and, there might be some more things that can be done over there. And I gave them a few ideas. What's happening really is there's a lot of people congregating in one spot. I can't tell if they think the fences have made it worse or better, because it's fenced in. There's a lot of activity over there. And you can see under the tree, usually somebody moves like a picnic table and it gets really dusty and dirty and there's all sorts of dogs. And, sometimes there's just they need some better signage and maybe have like an occupancy associated with how many dogs and people might, be in the dog park area, and maybe a little enforcement by like driving by, a few times a week. And that might get people in the habit of knowing, proper procedures, proper etiquette at the dog park. They need to follow back up with the state and then potentially with the city to see if there's some sort of partnership we can enter with for the neighbors.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The matter passes.
Thank you. The third item on my agenda is a discussion and vote and authorization for the mayor to sign medical director contract with Dr. Jason Burnett. This is an annual agreement with Dr. Jason Burnett to serve as medical director for the fire department. The city will reimburse the medical director at a rate of $10,000 per year, payable in equally quarterly installments. I make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with Dr. Jason Burnett as a medical director. This is a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes.
Thank you, Mayor. That concludes my agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner. On to Supervisor. Supervisor Beach.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one item for my agenda, which is an update from the Buildings and Grounds Committee. Just wanted to update the council and generally the public on the recent auction of the building at 31 Woodlawn Avenue. The auction was held for the past 3 weeks, starting the beginning of April and ended on April 28th. The building has a high bidder, and the high bid amount for that bidder was $2.8,100,000. And just to announce that the high bidder was the Adirondack Trust Company. So they are the bidders on the Woodlawn Avenue building. We are having a Buildings and Grounds meeting on Thursday this week, so nothing has yet been approved by the county. But we are going to recommend to accept that bid from the Adirondack Trust Company for $2.8,100,000 for the Woodlawn Avenue building. So just wanted to let people know that, and we will continue to keep you posted as we go through our agenda this month on the successful sale of the building, hopefully by the end of the month. And that's it for my agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Gaston.
Thank you. The first item on my agenda is a COVID-19 update. We are starting to look much better with our numbers. Our rolling positivity rate right now for 7 days is 1.5%, which is much lower than it's been recently. And we've also reduced our hospitalizations. We're at 11 currently. At this time, over 50% of county residents, that's in total, have received at least one COVID-19 vaccine, and approximately 40% of Saratoga County residents are completely vaccinated. Those are pretty good numbers, but we're seeing the attendance at our pods reduced. Fewer people are interested, including the 16-year-olds, 16 and 17. We do know that the FDA is expected to approve Pfizer for even younger individuals, 12 to 15, possibly as soon as next week. So we're hoping that people want to do that. It helps protect your kids, keeps them safe in school, and allows our schools to function more normally than they are currently. So I think we're all looking forward to that. We are going to start transitioning to smaller pods around the county. We are starting in some of the municipalities with lower vaccination rates generally. but they will be held everywhere, including in Saratoga Springs. We'll be doing some smaller pop-ups. The second item on my agenda is regards to the Saratoga County Women in Government Leadership Program. We announced that right before the last city council meeting, and those applications are now available at saratogacountyny.gov/leadership program. Any high school aged individual, particularly women, are able to apply for the program that will be several weeks over the summer. You'll learn a lot about county government, interesting things, fun things, not just boring things, but also be able to engage with people who have worked their way through government as well. Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul, as well as some other state level officials, have been interested and expressed desire to continue being engaged. So it's going to be a fun time. All of those applications will be accepted through the month of May. And there's also a contact form to send any questions should you have any. It's a pretty easy application, so I hope to see some additional interest in that. We're already getting some applications in. Once they're in, they'll be distributed to the supervisor that oversees the municipality where the applicant resides. And the supervisors, without having the personal information, such as the name, will select the participants. Items 3 and 4 on my agenda, I'm going to pull for right now. The websites that I was going to announce aren't quite ready, so I'm going to stop on those. Suffice it to say, there will be a new committee on community resilience and also taking some input on the county website. So that concludes my agenda.
Thank you, Supervisor. Any other business from the council? Then we are adjourned. Have a good evening.
Public Affairs programming on Look TV is underwritten by the generous support of Pinnell's Restaurant, classic Italian American food since 1922, and Stored Tech, technology solutions for computers, networks, and phone. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
1922, Babe Ruth debuts with the Yankees. WGY signs on air. Exterminator wins the Saratoga Cup, and Pinnell's Restaurant opens its doors for the very first time. For 5 generations, Pinnell's has been preparing delicious Italian food, served in a comfortable, home-like setting where everyone is welcome. 90 years of authentic Italian recipes, 90 years of the freshest ingredients, and 90 years of the finest classic Italian dishes, all made daily by hand. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga dining tradition since 1922.
Most cybersecurity firms deal only with prevention, the systems that block hackers and viruses. Stored Tech knows the root cause is actually good people doing bad things. So we offer a security training program which includes certifying all participants to show they understand the basics.
Technology solutions for computers, networks, and phones. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.